vote to marijuana legalization and the controversy behind it. So marijuana has been a point of concern for the government in recent years, but it has never been highly debated as it is now, especially with the recent legalization in Canada. And as I'm sure many of you have heard of the recent legalization in Canada. It is viewed as a complete success because they were able to pay off their entire $650 billion debt in less than 24 hours. Well, today I'm going to be speaking to you about whether we should do it in the US or not, some of the pros and cons about it, and how this relates to you guys. So first off, let's talk about the legalization in Canada. So Prime Minister Justin Trudeau prepared for the big day since his election in 2015. He has always been an advocate for legalizing marijuana in Canada, and it finally happened this past October 17th, 2018. Stores began to sell it and customers waited in lines stretching into the streets so that they could purchase the first round of marijuana. But less than 24 hours after its legalization, the tax revenue gained from the selling of marijuana was enough to pay for the entire $650 billion debt for Canada. And Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was stated saying, "I told you so. It's remarkable. You're tripled with debt one day and the next it's all vanished into thin air. It's just one more thing that makes Canada the great country it is." However, people wonder if the legalization of marijuana can do the same exact thing for Canada, or for the US as it did for Canada. So here I'm going to now go into some of the benefits of marijuana and how it could benefit the United States. First and foremost, the tax revenue from selling marijuana could pay huge dividends to our national debt, which is currently $21.7 trillion. That's 11 zeros. But even if we're not able to pay off the entire $21.7 trillion debt, we're going to get a huge chunk because I'm sure there's already a drug abuse problem with marijuana that we're going to be able to pay off the majority of that debt because a lot of people use marijuana today. And another benefit of marijuana is the fact that it can be used medically, as medical marijuana. Marijuana is proven by the National Institute on Drug Abuse to reduce pain and swelling and reduce nausea and anxiety, as well as provide specific remedies for certain diseases like glaucoma. Along with some positives of marijuana, however, there are negatives as well. When marijuana is ingested into the body, it enters the bloodstream and it goes right to the brain, where it alters the brain's receptors, and it creates difficulty thinking, impaired memory, and can get as bad as hallucinations even. And a study in New Zealand, actually conducted in part by researchers at Duke University, showed that people who started smoking marijuana heavily in their teens lost an average of 8 IQ points between ages 13 and 38. The average IQ of a human being is 100, so losing 8 points is the equivalent of losing 8% of their intelligence. And not only does marijuana affect the brain, but it hurts the rest of the body as well. Marijuana usage irritates the lungs because of the smoking, creating breathing problems, and it raises the heart rate, creating a greater risk for heart attacks. And finally, marijuana is also known as the gateway drug, meaning that it is usually the first step before trying a bunch of harder drugs that can do more damage to the body. Marijuana is also addictive, and so marijuana can be the first step to a life full of drug abuse and addiction. But when it comes to thinking marijuana, whether it should be legalized or not, you gotta consider both the pros and cons of it, whether the pros outweigh the cons or the cons outweigh the pros. And so overall, today you learned about the legalization of marijuana and how it went in Canada, as well as some of the pros and cons of marijuana. And actually, this is just recently, the results of yesterday's election came in, and Tony Evers won the job for governor of Wisconsin. And so Governor Evers thinks that medical marijuana should be legal in Wisconsin. So it's important for you to have an opinion on this because you might have to vote on it like you did yesterday. I didn't get to vote because I'm only 17. but you guys, some of you said it was on your ballots, and so clearly you gotta have an opinion on this stuff, and so it's important for you to know both the pros and cons of it. Thank you.